Alba Mineral Resources is a gold and critical raw materials focused exploration and development company. It has a portfolio of assets which are generating many questions from shareholders, and my job today is to be a conduit between investors and the company, represented today by Executive Chairman George Frangeskides. So George, thank you. And with the price of gold recording another high this past week, let's start off with the Clogau-St David's gold mine. Now, people are asking, has any gold been sold? But of course, I'm assuming this person means in large quantities, because you have minted some coins and pendant sales have been flagged in previous RNSs.
That's right, Sarah. Yeah, we sold coins, limited edition coins, for a stellar price, really, something like 8.5 times the spot price of gold. So we know that the margins for Welsh gold and Clogau gold in particular, for high-end, high Welsh gold content products, is very, 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 very strong. So we're also, as you say, producing some limited edition pendants, and they'll have some news on that hopefully in the next week or two. That's sort of taken a little while just to get the design finalised and the hallmarkings done and those things, but we should have that out pretty soon. But yes, in terms of commercial large-scale production, that's still in the future. We've had a bit of a delay because we've had to do some remedial works in the mine, which we're cracking on with as we speak. And so we hope to get blasting underground as soon as possible. I'll be able to give a timeline on that once I can see all the contractors have been booked in for all the remedial works. And so some of that is happening as we speak. Other parts of it will be booked in the coming few weeks. So we're very hopeful to get started on the blasting, which is the key thing underground, to see what gold grades we can get out of the new development on level 5 that we're going to be installing.
Because one shareholder was concerned about the blasting. They say it appears to have been hindered by contractor availability, and they ask, why are we allowing ourselves to be exposed to a third party? Are no suitable contractors available? So I'm assuming that they mean, shouldn't they become employees as opposed to relying on contractors?
Well, look, that goes to the core of being a junior miner. I mean, we obviously have employees, but in common with all other junior miners or junior explorers, we use contractors where they have the skills that we don't have internally, but also where we just simply cannot afford to put such people on our books. That's just completely impractical from a cost perspective. We bring in contractors when we need them, and that goes for blasters. We're not going to have full-time blasting employees until we are in full-scale production and we're in full-scale development. So this is absolutely the right thing to do. But, the UK has got limited experience and expertise these days in terms of certain contractors in the mining industry, and that's just the way it is. So, it isn't easy. We do have contractors, a few to choose from. They're very busy on other things, and we schedule them in when we can. But that's not been the issue here. The issue here has been that Mines Inspector has come in and identified some further works that were not in our scope that they would like to see done before blasting starts, and we've put that in our RNSs. So we're very clear about that's the reason for the current situation, which is that we're working very hard to get those elements fixed and updated in the mine so that we can start blasting again.
And when are you planning on completing the waste tip trenching program?
Well, look, that's taken a hiatus at the moment because we're focused on underground. We will go back into the waste tip. We'll take some more material from there. It's always had very good grades, actually. We've had grades of averaging of up to 9 grams per tonne on the last exercise, if I recall correctly. And so that's quite strong for something that is a spoiled tip. Where the processing and obviously the extraction is a lot easier. So we'll definitely be going back in there. But our focus at the moment as a small team, trying to, generate the best bang for our buck, is to go into restarting blasting on level 5 underground. That's really the key to this whole project.
So you mentioned a small team there. There are concerns about who is running Clogau on a day-to-day basis. Someone suggested, will you use students from St Andrews as you have in one of your other assets?
We've used students a lot in the past at Clogau. We rolled out the most comprehensive geochemical sampling campaign ever seen on the Dolgellau Gold Belt, collecting thousands of samples. A lot of that was done by students under the supervision of a geologist or geologists. So we know very well how to use those kinds of support mechanisms and try to get the most, as I said, bang for our buck in terms of generating work and results in the most efficient manner. So we're well across that, but we're in a high skilled environment now where we're in operational mode underground. This isn't for students. This is for key employees and experienced employees and contractors. We had a change, as we've announced. Mark Austin has taken a step back from the day-to-day operations at Clogau, and Peter Bolt, who's a very, very experienced mining engineer, has taken over the cudgels in terms of making sure that these works are going to be going on and being finished as soon as possible, and obviously on a sensible and professional basis, and that we move into the blasting phase. And Peter's got a huge amount of experience in terms of operations, so we're in very good hands. It is a time for skilled operators, not certainly in respect to the mine, not for others.
Okay, so you mentioned Mark and Peter there. Shareholders saying, is Peter freelance or an employee? And why did Mark Austin leave his position as Chief Operating Officer?
Well, Mark's moved on to pastures new in terms of his day-to-day, and that happens. And we're delighted that he's still with us, and he's on the board of Alba, and will add a lot of expertise and knowledge, and also help, of course, in the transition. So, these things happen, and people sometimes want to try new challenges. He's worked hugely hard for the last 5 years in terms of Clogau in particular, but also our other projects. He's still on the GreenRoc board. He's very much a part of the furniture, if I can put it that way. So we're delighted that that's the case. But, we always have succession planning in place to the extent we possibly can. Peter's someone who's worked with us in the past, who continued to work with us on and off over the last 5 years, even since Mark's been in place. And we're delighted that he can take over. And he, he's doing what is necessary. He's there when is necessary. He actually has been there most of the time since Mark's departed, which is exactly what we need. So I don't think there should be any concerns about how things are being managed. I mean, that is the basic requirement for a company like ours, is that we manage these projects in the most efficient manner possible and keep the work moving forward, and we're doing that.
Okay, so you're keeping the work moving forward. So therefore, do you still consider Clogau as having a viable gold mine?
That remains to be seen, whether it's a viable gold mine. I mean, this is the whole point. We're in this strange world where we are doing what looks like development towards production, but actually it's exploration. We don't know yet what grade we're going to get out of this next blasting phase. So the key thing here is to get this bulk sample out and process it and see what the grade is. And if it's good, then we know we've got a viable section of the mine. We then hope that the next section mine will be similarly viable. So it's essentially a suck it and see process of bulk blasting and bulk sampling. That's what this exercise is. We'll have a lot more to say about viability after this next phase. That's for sure.
So how much of a priority is Clogau? Some investors felt that when you departed partially from Amitsoq, it was to concentrate on the opportunity in Wales, but it looks like they say you're pivoting back to Greenland.
Look, we've always been flexible in terms of, and we have to be nimble as a junior company and see where the opportunities lie. We still believe in Clogau. It's been a long slog for us and our shareholders. There's no doubt about that. Taking on an old mine is not for the faint-hearted. We've had massive challenges over the years in terms of permitting, ecological and environmental permitting in particular. We've got through all of that through a great deal of skill and hard work. And we're now seeing the benefits of that. We have everything in place where we can now do this work underground. So that's the case. And obviously, having put all that hard work in and yet to see the answer, if you like, in terms of, as I say, what grade we can get from underground on a serious bulk sampling exercise. Of course, we remain committed to the project to see that through.
And you're obviously committed to the Amitsoq opportunity in Greenland. I think that, it's operated by GreenRoc Strategic Materials, but I think Alba still has a 51% interest. So what are your aspirations for that investment?
It's a 26% interest that we've got currently, but we are the major shareholder, the largest shareholder, should I say, by far in GreenRoc. We remain hugely committed to GreenRoc, very, very much involved with a lot of the work that is ongoing that shareholders don't see behind the scenes, especially on a corporate finance perspective at the moment, where we're not in the field. We are in the field in terms of having a contractor taking a bulk sample, but that is, as I say, a contractor's exercise in the main. But in terms of other work and corporate finance and strategy, we're very much involved in GreenRoc and what it's doing currently. We're hugely committed to that, and we'd like to retain as much of our interest in GreenRoc as we possibly can moving forward.
Would you like a 51% interest?
Look, I think that I suppose we'll probably come on to touch on our new project acquisition, Motzfeldt, which is also in Greenland, which you mentioned previously. We're going to have our hands full at Alba doing some exciting work in relation to Motzfeldt. I think rolling out, an Amitsoq Mark II, if you want to see it in a simplistic way, which is Motzfeldt is another big asset that hasn't had a huge amount of work done in recent times. It was being massively drilled 10, 12 years ago. So it's got a resource. I obviously know the operator of the project, having been involved with it previously. So I know work, of course, has been going on, and very good work, in particular with St Andrews and SRK, supporting the operator there over the last 5-6 years to do some really interesting work on a new target there called Merino. So it's a multi-deposit project, and it's a multi-element project. It's very exciting. It's in critical raw materials, niobium, tantalum, zirconium, rare earths. These are the things that we in the UK, the EU, the US need in the coming decades, and to reduce reliance upon people like the Chinese, who obviously have cornered the market in many critical raw materials, including the ones I've mentioned. So we're going to have our hands full doing that work. It's a very exciting project, and as I say, we look to roll out a similar exercise where we can do a scoping study, PFS, and move into a lot of the detailed metallurgical processing work that's needed at Motzfeldt. It's been done in the past, but we're going to update all of that work. So very exciting, very busy. I think the prospects for us moving to 51% at GreenRoc are, not necessarily that great, or at Amitsoq, but we continue to keep as much of our interest in that project as we can.
Okay, so Motzfeldt, the one that you're excited about, that multi-element opportunity in Greenland, investors asking, how important is the processing of ore or an off-take agreement regarding sort of outside funding opportunities?
Look, I think the thing we flagged when we brought this project into Alba, one of the main things to flag about a critical raw materials project in the current world is that there's a huge amount of public financing that's available to projects like that. That's whether it's from the UK, the EU, the US, and other states around the world that are sympathetic to the need for sustainable and low sovereign risk supplies of critical raw materials. So we're very much focused on getting some of that public funding into Motzfeldt. It's early days. We literally only just announced the project a few weeks ago, but it's going to be one of our key focuses is to get public money. And the reason for that is obvious. Number one, it's available. Number two, it's low cost, typically low cost, and in some cases no cost. So if it's a grant situation, then it can come at no cost to the company, essentially. And so that's a hugely beneficial thing for us to have, and it reduces or minimizes dilutive impact on shareholders. So that's something we're very keen on.
And at its most simplistic level, what is the value of Motzfeldt to shareholders?
it's optionality over a critical raw materials project that's very large. You'd only have to listen to, he's sort of moved on to a few other things at the moment, President Trump, but if you, I'm sure, heard him a few months ago, every day he was talking about rare earths and Greenland. And the funny thing is that may make people think that Greenland has got 20 or 30 rare earth projects, that it's some sort of rare earth heaven. In fact, Greenland's got some fantastic projects, but in terms of rare earths, there are 3 really big projects, and Motzfeldt's one of them. And so we're really delighted that we've got one of those key projects. It's a known project. And we've got it now, or we've got it under our foot, as it were. We've got the right to go to 51% once we close the deal, and so we're delighted with that.
Okay, just 3 more questions, if I may, George. When will the board invest its own funds? Asks one investor.
We've been investing our own funds for many years. In fact, as I sort of made clear in an answer to one of the questions on our Investor Hub platform, the board has periodically and over a great period of time recently, accrued fees and salaries in order that most of the money that Alba has goes into its projects. So the commitment of the board should never be doubted. I don't think you'll find every board or every company in any other walk of life being prepared to take or to accrue salary rather than get its salary at the end of the month. So I think the board and management have shown huge commitment to Alba and will continue to do so. We've also subscribed for shares in the company in the past and will continue to do so.
And of course, Alba has many strings to its bow. How are the other parts of the portfolio progressing?
So Finsbo is the other exciting project, again, moving into that critical raw materials space that's so important. It's a very high-grade rare earth prospect. It's early stage, hasn't been drilled, so our focus there is currently on just completing contracts with contractors to get in and drill that project. It needs to be permitted, but that's a sort of 4-week process to get a permit to drill, and then we'll be straight into drilling 2 or 3 holes there just to see if we can get continuity of that high-grade rare earth that we've seen at surface. So a very exciting prospect. Could be a game changer, but we won't know too much more about it until we've drilled it.
Okay, so finally, it's a long question, but probably a short answer. Does the board have a priority list in terms of various investments, and what are they in terms of timescales, capex, and shareholder returns and milestones?
Look, I think the key thing is, as ever, is Clogau and getting the bulk sampling done. There's a huge amount of value. If we can show sufficient grade underground, then there's a huge amount of value to be extracted from Clogau, and that will be a game changer for the economics of the project and for the finances of the company. In terms of moving into the critical raw materials space, we're able to do that relatively inexpensively. The drilling program at Finsbo will be 2 or 3 holes. It's very easy access. It isn't working in Greenland. Greenland is obviously more expensive, but the move into Motzfeldt does not involve, in the near term, huge amounts of money being spent on drilling programs. It's been drilled. It's got a resource. The value that we can add there is on very high-level metallurgical and mineralogical processing work to show that we can extract all of these elements in an efficient manner from the ore body. It's doing a scoping study so that we can update the basic economics of the project and show that to be a profitable mining proposition. So these are things that can be done on a desktop basis or in a lab, and they don't involve mobilizing contractors to site and doing big drill programs. That can come in the future, but let's prove up this project to be one of the really stellar projects of Greenland, and then it'll have its own value, inherent value proven, and then we'll move from there.
Many thanks, and many thanks to you, the investors who passed the questions on to myself. Delighted to be the conduit today, and delighted to be joined by you yet again, George. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks so much for your time.